Doc Alan Lindemann. Doc, what's going on, man? How are you?
We're doing really well here, Neil. And you?
Fantastic. And today's topics podcast is going to be herd immunity. What is herd immunity? Immunity. What is herd immunity? See, the podcast has not been allowing me, and it's not a podcast herd immunity. It's just herd immunity. What is herd immunity?
It's also known as population or immunity. It's also the amount of people that is required to protect the people with no immunity, who haven't either had the illness or haven't been vaccinated.
When does herd immunity not work?
When there's a threshold for herd immunity. For example, with measles, you really want to get about 95% of the population immunized again, either with the vaccination or with the actual illness. So if you fall like we are right now, 92%, everybody's so worried about measles. Of course, when I was little, I had measles, mumps, and chicken pox one spring. We had it all. So I lived.
Can herd immunity be affected by the vaccine being used?
You have to have a good vaccine. You have to have an established vaccine that you know works and is relatively safe.
Okay. And next. Are there limitations to herd immunizations?
Let's see here.
Does population density matter when establishing herd immunity?
There we go. Thank you, Neil. Yes, it does. When you have higher population group, you're more likely to become ill with the disease that we're talking about. For example, if you have measles in New York City, you're more likely to get spread measles than if you are in Elgin, North Dakota.
Are there limitations to herd immunization?
Yes, there are. Herd immunity only works for diseases that are spread between people. For diseases that aren't spread between people, like tetanus, which is contracted by bacteria in the soil, herd immunity is impossible.
Does herd immunization work for all diseases?
No, it doesn't. You have to have the right conditions for herd immunity to be established. For example, you need to have a virus that doesn't mutate. Our flu mutate. So it's really difficult, as a matter of fact, impossible to develop herd immunity to the flu. That's why we have a new flu vaccine every year.
What is the threshold for herd immunity?
Depends on the it depends on what it is. Again, for measles, you have to have 95% of the people immune.
How does herd immunity work with polio?
Polio is a very good example of herd immunity in action. The thing with polio is, even though it's deadly, it doesn't evolve quickly. So if you are immune to polio, you probably will be for life immune to polio.
Is there a polio vaccine?
Yes, we have had several polio vaccines. As a matter of fact, we've come 360 degrees with our polio vaccine. When I was little and getting the first polio vaccine, it was Salk. It was the Salk vaccine. That has to be given IM. I can still remember those shots. Then we went to the live attenuated vaccine. That was in the sugar cube. Since 2000, we've decided to go back to the Salk vaccine because there were people actually being paralyzed by the live polio vaccine in the sugar cube.
All right. That's an interesting thing I did not know about. Are diphtheria, so we talked about, is there a polio vaccine, then is there a test for immunity? Are diphtheria and pertussis bacteria?
Yes, they are bacteria. And that's one of the reasons that we do immunize or vaccinate for diphtheria and pertussis bacteria. But because they're bacteria, their the immunity to that doesn't last long. So there's the recommendation for getting boosters every 10 years for diphtheria and pertussis.
Is the current polio vaccine live?
No, it isn't. Again, since the year 2000, polio vaccine has been completely dead, and there have been no incidents of spreading polio by the live vaccine that was in the sugar cube.
All right. The best place to go is worlddocallen.com and pick up Pregnancy Your Way, available today on Amazon. Thanks, Doc.
Thanks, Neil.
All right. That was the World Doc Allen podcast, guys. Take care. All right. We are.